It's that time of year again! The gift that keeps on giving for gaming news. It's the start of June, a consistent stream of commercials or commercial presentations for us all to get excited about. Like, let's not mince words here, we are getting excited not only for ads, but potential ads for potential products we potentially may not see much of for a really long time, and I think that's beautiful. At any rate, though this channel won't be reacting to all of the digital presentations replacing E3 this year, we'll take a look at some of the publishers and titles that pique my personal interest. I'm generally a Nintendo person myself, so titles on the Switch tend to hold my interest more than anything else. I'm also a really long-time fan of the Story of Season titles that I've personally played, so it feels right to take a look at the 2024 Marvelous Games Showcase and poke around a bit with the new trailers. After all, last year we had so many teasers for more in the Story of Seasons lineup and spin-offs, so surely we've got more to look at this year, right? 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 Okay, to be fair, Marvelous did release Loop 8 and the Rune Factory 3 remaster as promised, as well as the Story of Seasons, a Wonderful Life remaster, adding quality of life features and a fresh coat of paint to make this game peak. Please play this game, please, 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 please! In addition to the style-savvy-esque Fashion Dreamer and the exceedingly charming Silent Hope, which I personally feel was really slept on as a cozy game experience last year, and I felt it brought a lot of casual gameplay fun that a lot of people could really enjoy. Scratched a certain gaming itch I've had for years. Anyways, so many of the trailers we got this year were also trailers in last year's show, and I really wish we'd seen more of these new titles after a year than the teasers we got. It's good to know Marvelous is taking the time to refine these games and make them the best they can possibly be, hopefully running a little more consistently than Rune Factory 5, wonderful as a game that is otherwise, but like right from the start, our update to Project Magia was a proper title in FarMagia and an animated introductory sequence. Gorgeous as the animated sequence was, and as interesting as some of these gameplay implications may be for the title, it would have been nice to see at least some of the gameplay in-engine, you know? Again, and I'll always stress this when I can, developers taking the time they need to both craft a wonderful game in-world and design both, and be able to not be crunched or overworked, is increasingly more important to the industry. And the more time taken to perfect the craft in a sustainable way for the company and developers both, the better the industry will continue to be for everyone. But having seen the splash art for some of these characters a year ago, we had some idea of what the artistic direction of the game would be, even if we had a footage not final label and we only saw the smallest bit of characters in motion. I think that would have added a lot to the promotion. Again, not that the animation was bad, it was excellent, but following on the heels of a certain presentation which showed a lengthy promotional video outside of gameplay before we knew what kind of game it would even be, it's just a little more on my mind to be wary of this kind of thing, you know? I'm still hopeful that FarMagia will run like a refined version of Rune Factory 5 as far as gameplay with a longer, more intricate story to go along with it. Hiro Mashima's art style is so distinct that it's possible people who weren't otherwise interested in this game will pick it up, but I'm hopeful that Marvelous aren't relying too strongly on the character designs and lead artist to sell this title either. I think it has a lot of potential and we just need to see that final push with gameplay to really sell it. Another thing which is honestly not huge to have missed, but still kind of disappointing to not see, was Project Life is RPG. We know so tantalizingly little from last year's showcase, except that it's a new IP and it's very ambitious. As a fan of the style of RPGs that Marvelous seems to be drawing inspiration from, or at least making it a similar style to, I can't help but be super curious about this one. The name especially makes me think of Fantasy Life, which I'm eagerly awaiting more information for, and October's release of. So I guess waiting a little longer to space those two games' releases will overall help them both for keeping sales competitions lower. And I know they mentioned early on they said they had other titles in the works that wouldn't be shown in this presentation, but Life is RPG is one of the bigger points of curiosity in the works to me. Fingers crossed we'll see something for it before too long. Next, we just got a bit more of an introduction to the newest entry in the Story of Seasons series. Part of the promo footage we've seen before was replayed, though it looks like it's had a couple of graphical enhancements which are really nice. And we knew they were focusing on the expression of nature in this title last year too, which we did get to see a little more of this year, but again, I'm really itching to see some gameplay. The cel-shaded graphics alongside the brightly colored visuals make for a picturesque, cozy environment for this title, and getting those little snippets of more to come makes the nameless Story of Seasons title look all the more enticing. But similar to FarMagia before, it feels like we got just a smidge more of promotional material without as much substance. Sans the inclusion of a paraglider, which all games are required by law to have after Breath of the Wild's launch. It was nice to see the efforts put into expressing all 4 seasons in-game, as Mr. Nakano mentioned is a core concept in this entry's design philosophy. I'm really hopeful we get seasonal transitions a la A Wonderful Life, where towards the end of each season, the landscape around the farm and town gradually shifts into looking like the next season. It made each of the 40 days of an annual cycle in that entry feel truly unique. and the transition of time feel more organic as the story unfolded. I really can't recommend A Wonderful Life enough, especially if you're a fan of Stardew Valley. Concerned Ape drew inspiration for the town of Stardew Valley from this title, after all. And as far as the farming sim genre goes, due to the nature of your character and family aging alongside the world as the years go by, its story progression and pacing still stand out as distinctly poignant. I think that's how you say it, poignant. Personally, I think it's worth playing for that aspect alone, even if farming simulation titles aren't usually your jam, but I digress. For now, we continue to wait with bated breath for more about this new Story of Seasons title as development continues along. Updates to the multiplayer Story of Seasons game teased last year were also really sorely missed. Story of Seasons has been a single-player experience about building your own life from scratch on a farm since the beginning, and I know that having a second or a third or a fourth person to play with can make the genre that much more appealing for those who might otherwise not give the games a second glance. I know that my forever person is interested and willing to play the multiplayer title once we know more about it, just by merit of my own interest. Though nothing has been officially announced yet, my best guess is that this title will be fleshed out a little more following the Switch 2's release, just by merit of Nintendo consoles being home to a big number of casual gamers that these styles of games really appeal to. Not that Nintendo has the best reputation for online play, though. I'm sure it's coming out on other consoles at the same time and will find a huge home on the PC market. It's just one of those gut feelings you get about the looming announcement of a new Nintendo console that makes you think companies are holding off to push sales on the newer, more exciting system. I could be wrong, but that's just what I think at present. Fingers crossed again that development is progressing smoothly and that we'll hear more about this new frontier in Story of Seasons soon. Next is a series of Japan-only news bits, so I won't go too deep into any of them. If you're ever able to try one, Beat Goody Men chocolate biscuits are really tasty, and they all come with a sticker, so that's basically two incredible products in one. No mobile app for us losers outside of Japan, but at least we can import the wafers and stickers sometimes. Next up, though, is the real big reveal of the showcase. Are you sitting down? Sit down, son. You're gonna want to be sitting down. Japan is also getting some new arcade cabinets for a Pokemon game called Pokemon Frienda, and the gameplay looks fire. Okay, I'm messing around a bit. Obviously this game isn't targeting me as a player, not being in Japan I wouldn't be able to play it anyway, but by playing it looks like players can collect these little collectible plates of Pokemon to make their own team out of. It's like a step up from Pokemon cards in a way because of the screens, and you can see this being really fun for a younger audience. Like, come on, these kids in the promotional video are freaking adorable and how happy they are. And not being too dissimilar in concept is a gachapon machine for getting a new favorite Pokemon knick-knack. For the youngsters and the youngsters at heart that play it, I think it's going to be a joy, especially with how cool Japanese arcades are to be in. I really miss them. Going for your favorite character in a UFO claw machine catcher, playing something with a friend or a stranger is something we don't usually get as much quality for outside of Japan, at least in my experience. I'll get back there someday in the future, so hopefully I'm not missing out on anything in the meantime. Oh my god. Oh, yes. As I was saying, no. I can see how these would appeal to a younger audience in Japan, so I'm sure the youth will enjoy these games and prizes greatly. The youth and the youth only. The children. The babies. Them only. Just them. Next, we have a short sizzle reel of Marvelous published indie titles. Bow, Path of the Teal Lotus, which I guess is the finalized title for Silksong. I feel like the graphical style and story changed a lot from announcement to present, but we have the release date now, so rejoice, Hollow Knight fans. You have been saved. Jokes aside, the art style for this title is super gorgeous, and though it does really wear its inspiration on its sleeve, it looks like it'll be charming enough to have its own identity to stand on in the gaming space. The world and yokai designs are incredibly charming as well. July 18th is a date to look out for, I think, for platforming fans. In Japan. Why does Japan get everything good in July while us international fools were dumb enough to be born somewhere else? Anyways, can I say this word? Desu, the guitar, looks like a unique platformer with the guitar-based mechanics of sound waves and electricity being your tools, and considering the title and premise of avenging your unalived owner, I'd hope and expect the title to have some incredible tunes to play along to. It'd be interesting if they added a rhythm element to the platforming sections utilizing sound waves as well. Maybe not for the whole title to avoid tedium, but for key portions or battles to add to the theme of playing as guitar. Either way, it looks unique, and I hope we get an early 2025 release for this title. Finally, we see a little preview of a title called Moonlight Peaks, another life/farming simulation style game with an interesting wrinkle to it. The player is a vampire living in a town of other magical creatures adventures, working more on things like potions and spells as opposed to crafting and food-based recipes one might expect in these kinds of games. It's a fresh take on the simulation genre that looks like it's going to turn a lot of people's expectations for tropes on their head, and with the spooky art style, I feel like this title is really gonna resonate with a group of folks that will just love it to pieces. It feels more in line with the Rune Factory series, which is very appealing to me personally. I'll be keeping a pin in this one for 2026 myself. Speaking of Rune Factory, we move on to the wonderful Rune Factory series' newest title, Project Dragon. Well, I say the series' newest title, but the game is supposedly a spin-off of the series, which makes it a spin-off series of a spin-off series. We're getting Beyblade levels of spin at this point. I digress. Mr. Maekawa reintroduces us to our new protagonists of this title, newly named Subaru and Kaguya, from the mysterious eastern country of the world of Rune Factory that has been mentioned by multiple characters thus far in the series. We get to see a little more gameplay and action from these two, which was such a treat. The team have really upped their graphical output for this title. It barely looks like a Rune Factory title at all, as much as it looks like Genshin Impact, which I'm sure had an influence on the design of the title. The fighting animations are delightfully flashy and expressive, fitting for the characters being earth dancers as opposed to being earth mates, thereby fighting using dance-like movements alongside weapons in combat. The team has also really gone all in on the Japanese style of weapons, from swords to Suzumi to Agasa, and teasing not only returning series staples, but also new bows and talismans as unlockable weapons. We got to see a little more of the overworld in development in last year's teaser trailer, as far as the island Speckled Sky being traversable by dragons, and now Agasa as well, because it's legally required to have a paraglider in your game after the release of Breath of the Wild. So seeing what I assume to be the main overworld and snippets of combat this year gave us a good idea of balance in the game. Skylands and islands being plentiful but with little to do on each can grow pretty drab in a game, so though so far we haven't seen enough to know roughly how many Skylands there might be, or even their purposes as opposed to the overworld below, shops, things like that, it's probably best to keep our expectations grounded for now. The Mr. Maekawa let us know our protagonists connect to the world as Earth dancers rather than Earth mates, as our Rune Factory protagonists have been so far. I wonder if beyond our standard monster friends becoming livestock and battle companions, we'll see some fantastical friends like yokai join us. There's a lot of expansion opportunity on what monster friends can do for the player as farmhands as well. Think the Junimos and how their assistance automates so much of the farm work in late game Stardew Valley, which just makes adding something like yokai make a lot of sense to me. Having captured monsters and yokai create a self-sustaining farm system as our characters go on their plucky adventures would open up for more time in the day cycle for questing and resource gathering, which could only be a good thing if the scope of these titles continues to grow. Seeing how far Marvelous has come both graphically and in what looks to be the overworld play in the last 2 years has me bubbling with excitement for Project Dragon, so it is absolutely staying on my radar up to release. We didn't get a Rune Factory 6 update, but Project Dragon has my full attention personally, so having direct competition from the core spin-off series would likely only cause self-competition with the spin-off series, you know? It's always next year for news after all. Finally, we get our final trailer of the showcase in Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion, a title we already knew about from a teaser in last year's showcase. I don't know much about this series or mech games in general, so I'm taking the input my forever person gave me to make these statements. Apparently, allegedly, we are panning over parts and mechs from the original game, and we are hoping that this game is not on Switch, so the title isn't held back by the hardware and can be the grandest, robot fightiest game it can possibly be in a post-Armored Core 6 world. Take notes, Marvelous, my mech-loving forever person has spoken. And that's it for this year's Marvelous Game Showcase. What did you all think? Did we get enough information? Did we see everything you hoped to see? Let's talk about it in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching and sticking around till the very end. My friends, I hope your day is, in a word, marvelous. Take care.